with Katie Bowman.
All right, and we're back with another episode of Help Me, I'm Scared with Katie Bowman. I am your host, Katie Bowman. As always, we have the lovely JD in the house, JD Lopez.
Hello.
My producer. And I'm so excited for this episode. The episode's a long time coming. We have my good friend, Derek Sheen in the house.
Hi, everybody. Hello. Yay. This has been forever.
I know. I remember sitting down with you at Altercation Fest and being like, I'm starting a horror film podcast and I really want to have you on it at some point. Come to Denver. And so here we are. I'm so excited.
Me too. I've been wanting to talk about horror with you forever. We talk about horror every time we're together.
I know. Every time we're together, we talk about
It's
it.
our favorite thing.
Yes. And so now we get to do a whole podcast about it. I'm really excited. And you picked a movie I'd never seen before. Probably because I was 11 when this came out.
Oh, true.
And but I mean, I did see a lot of stuff. So not sadly, I don't know. We were talking in one of our earlier episodes. We figured out the reason I love horror so much is also I was like the youngest in my family, so I saw everything everyone else was watching too young.
Oh, that was me. I mean, I saw. I mean, I saw. I was, a child of the '80s.
Yes,
And,
exactly.
All even like the gritty hardcore cinema and grindhouse stuff. I was seeing that when I was a preteen.
Yeah, totally. Oh my god, Grindhouse.
Latchkey generation. My parents would just be like, "Oh, you want to go to the movies? I don't care. I'll buy the ticket.
Yeah,
I'll buy the ticket and drop you off at the theater to go see William Lustig's Maniac at 12 years old."
I know.
I hate
like
crime of a film.
Got into lots of things. I also, when we were talking about, I went to Universal Studios with my family, and I was probably in elementary school, and Universal Studios is not Disney World,
No.
So I got shook there. Literally blocked out certain rides. Okay. Anyway, so we're talking about Session 9 today, and it's directed by Brad Anderson, a 2001 film. The cast is pretty loaded. We got David Caruso. How do you say his last name? Stephen Givadon, is it Giradon?
Oh, Givadon. He was
Givadon. Sorry, my handwriting.
Mike. He was actually one of the. I think he's one of the writers too. If I remember correctly.
Oh, yes.
And
Wait, I think I
producer.
didn't remember screenplay. And then we got Paul Guilfoyle, and I might be butchering that. Josh Lucas, Peter Milan, and Brendan Sexton III. Which I like a little tight cast. I always enjoy when there's.
And one of my favorite cameos by Larry Fessenden, who I absolutely adore, and he's a great director and a great writer, but he also just shows up in these movies, and you're like, as soon as you see him, you're like, oh, it's going to be great. It's Larry Fessenden just showed up.
Yeah.
I mean, Who's
Okay.
Next? He's the guy at the beginning of Who's Next who's in his underwear and he just has to sit on a couch dead for most of the movie.
That's so funny. I have not even I don't know if now that I'm seeing his face, I'm like, okay, I know
You've
this
seen him in a
guy.
bunch of stuff. Also, if you saw Dr. Sleep,
Yeah.
so he
plays.
he's in that movie, but also what's funny is I thought he was going to play Jack Torrance,
Yeah.
and who actually plays Jack Torrance in that movie is Henry
Ewan
Thomas.
What'd you
Henry
say?
Thomas from E.T.
Oh. But Ewan McGregor was...
Ewan McGregor's in he plays
He's
the
Dr.
kid.
Sleep.
He
Yeah,
plays the grown up boy.
Right.
But he has he runs into his father at the Overlook
right.
Hotel, and it's end up played by Henry Thomas.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's who that was. Okay, because they kind of look like each other.
Oh, he's got a
love
Nicholson
it.
thing, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
he does.
I love the Nicholson vibe. Yeah, well, that's exciting. Yeah, this cast was great, and just the way it was filmed really brought me back to some nostalgia of that early 2000s, late 90s film style. I read that they wanted to make this movie more what's the word, clear, the way they filmed it, and the audience gets everything, but then they were like, you know what, let's make it more ambiguous and dreary and not making sense, because it adds to the whole hysteria and losing your mind vibe of the whole film. And I was like, that's an interesting choice, and it definitely feels that way when you're watching it. Like it starts off pretty clear and then it gets so like it's almost like you're trying to pull, like each character is trying to pull out a memory that they can't quite remember that well. And I feel like that also really speaks to trauma and how you like repress your own traumas and stuff like that too.
It really digs deep into some stuff that I think the reason this movie really had an impact on me is because it doesn't pull any punches with trauma.
Yeah.
And when it's revealed kind of, and I won't give a lot away, just I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it.
This is a free spoiler zone.
Okay, good, because when you realize Gordon, who is he's the boss, he's the main contractor, Peter Mullen, who you'd recognize from a ton of movies. He's been a great character actor. He's played in a ton of stuff. You'd see him in, you've seen him and you go, oh, but I see him as this character even to this day.
Yeah.
I always see him as Gordon, Scottish actor, and but when he has his reveal near the first third of the movie, and you realize, oh, this guy's fucking broken inside.
Yeah, something terrible happened to him.
Yeah, something real bad happened and allowed him to be open to this thing, this experience, and that's when things start to really change, because then we're in an uncanny valley of like. It's not necessarily possession. It's just giving yourself over to not being well anymore.
Yeah, 100%.
Even if it was even if it is a supernatural thriller, it's all about unprocessed, undiagnosed fucking trauma.
That's like the whole movie
coming to light,
which is crazy, and it really hit home for me right now, because. And sorry, I'm just trying to look up something that I forgot to look up before we came in here, so don't mind me being on my phone, guys.
No, it's okay, because like the mulligan in this film is the tapes.
Yes,
I mean they do give us some exposition.
Yes,
but it's just to distraction.
Mulligan meaning.
Or a red herring is, I guess, what I mean.
Okay,
Sorry, not a mulligan, not a do-over.
Yeah,
why would I say a do-over? It's they get to do the film over.
Just for the listener.
Yeah, I didn't graduate from film school. I just use terms that I don't know.
No idea.
It sounded good. That's why I was like, hey, you got to explain to me.
What is the mulligan?
Trying to figure out how to shoehorn paradigm shift into this conversation.
Red herring is perfect.
But it's a red herring because it does give you some exposition, but in the end, they could cut all that out and it wouldn't matter. Because we already know that Gordon is a broken person from the first 5 minutes of this movie. When he pulls up and tells, oh god damn it, he's of course the one actor's name I can't remember, the redhead dude from
Caruso.
Oh, David Caruso, yeah.
David Caruso,
Okay.
yeah.
Easily forgettable, except that I loved him in this movie.
Interesting.
But the minute he pulls up in the truck and tells Caruso, like, I made a deal, and I think we got the bid because he, underbid everybody and also by like a month. And Caruso's like, there's no way we can get that job done. That's impossible. The size of this building's too big. And you already know this guy's under intense financial pressure.
Yeah.
Emotional pressure. Then he mentions that he just had a baby and you're like, oh, everything's hinging on this. This dude
like what happened to him with this baby too? Like you're like, is the baby alive? You don't know anything.
That scene always fucks me up when he pulls up, and and of course it's lit so creepily. It's all this blue filter.
It looks so much like a photographic memory.
Yeah, and the rain, and he's just
and the sounds
looking at his wife, and he doesn't want to go in the house, and he's trying to act well, but he's got he's got flowers, and you're like, oh, he's trying to fix something.
Yeah, he's trying to fix something. And it's weird because Phil, who's Caruso in the beginning, is like, you can always talk to him. And he's just holding space for this guy. And you think he knows like everything. And that's how to me it felt. And then the further you get in, I'm like, wait, no one knows what's going on with Gordon. Like,
and Phil's known him the longest.
Yeah.
And definitely can see there's something going on. But I think everybody just assumes it's just the pressure of having a new baby. But this guy's in his 40s.
Yeah.
And is an older guy and definitely has worked a long time. And probably, this is just a complete, an absolute change for somebody who's already under so much pressure. And man, I don't know what happened. I mean, we know they're dead. We know he murders them.
Yeah.
But that scene where all you hear is her, like, they play it a few times. Oh, flowers for me.
Yeah,
And
they
then
play it.
the fucking pot of water that either gets knocked over onto him or that he fucking throws the baby into, which was what I always wondered what happened.
Yeah, like what happened. So just also, so JD hates horror.
Sorry.
No.
This is a perfect podcast for
I
you.
know,
I know, it's a great little balance.
It's an exercise.
It's an exercise. And so I always kind of run through the plot for him so that he understands.
Oh, so you haven't seen it?
He's never seen it. No. And but he does, and I feel like you don't mind hearing the plots, right?
Depending on the movie, some of them are scary. Some of them keep me up.
This one might keep you up.
This one has
baby stuff. It sounds like it has
but
all the
here's
ingredients.
The thing, another movie where like you don't see a lot of actual gore or anything on screen. It's all implied, which is I always think one of the most beautiful ways, but like effective ways to film. Sometimes we don't need to see all the skin being ripped off or babies boiled, whatever happened.
It's all in the imagination.
Yes.
Because everything everything is sort of suggested.
Yeah.
And it's your imagination that really, and the character development that really make things, that take things to another level. But the thing that works in this movie is it's not a traditional horror film in the sense of the early aughts where it was about body horror or brutality. This was the horror is all about losing oneself, being invaded against your will, which I think is the most terrifying concept, to not have any control anymore.
100%.
And watching yourself from outside, from inside.
Yeah.
Doing things that are against your control.
I also think like it speaks to like how you can't run away from your own demons.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a true thing in life. But so it starts off with Phil and Gordon having a heart-to-heart in the car, and that's when Gordon's like, you can always talk to me. I'm here for you. And like Gordon's just like steaming. So he's a tortured soul. And you really don't know like what it's about. You just know there was a trauma. And I think it's interesting that they didn't even show it from the beginning, because a lot of movies, like if you think about this is like a slight spoiler because we're not talking about this episode yet, but The Descent, like you see the trauma that starts in the beginning and then it goes into a different direction too. But so they show up at this place. They're like guys that handle asbestos and stuff like that. I don't know what that job is. And they're at this place called the Kirkbridge Mental Health Hospital, and it's built in 1871, and it's being like renovated and reclaimed as a town hall renovated center after being closed down for nearly 15 years. From
a real institution, by the way, that existed.
I wrote that down too. It's like a real place that was similarly shut down for similar reasons. And so they're showing up to fix all of it. It's like this huge, it's like literally the size of like a college like dormitory, or like it's huge.
Buckingham Palace.
Yeah,
when you
it's
see it
big.
from the sky, it's massive, and they shot it in the building even though it was condemned. So it was the last thing to get to.
I can't believe they shot it in there.
They
like the building actually has like asbestos and mold and like all these dangerous substances, and they shot this movie in there. And so like while you're watching
early 2000s, brother,
they get like asbestos on them, and I don't know if that was real. It's probably like,
God, I hope not.
I hope it was flour or something.
They're all still alive, so
yeah. But like you're just like, oh, like just shaking from just the exposure of all those chemicals, and then you find out it's like they really did film.
Brad Anderson.
And I'm like, oh my God, the things that actors have to do sometimes, especially in those earlier days. It's just crazy.
Anderson says that when they were shooting it, the wheelchair that they used sort of for all of the promotional artbuck, and the poster and everything, that's actually from the build. They found it there, and they actually found it in the middle of the hallway. So they shot it, and then he was like, it just became sort of like the center of the film and the story. Because they were taking photos originally, like pre-photography and stuff, and before they shot, and that sort of was like a thing that made him almost They did. They changed the screenplay as well halfway through shooting, but it became this icon to him that like sort of signified, loss and an emptiness and sort of the horror of, an old broken down asylum, this haunted idea that,
Yeah.
an empty chair, which is kind of basically, what sort of what Gordon's brain is. It's waiting for someone to sit in it.
Yeah, totally. And it feels so calling. Like I feel like an empty chair always looks kind of like, I mean, I feel like your brain is like sit down every time you see a chair. And so this one, it's like, come get your meds, come sit down. Here we go.
Danvers, right? That's the name of the actual mental
Yes,
institution.
I was just looking it up, and one sec. It's called Danvers State Hospital. It was also known as State Lunatic Hospital, which is so bad.
That's before marketing. That's pre-marketing.
Like, oh God!
Come on down to the lunatic hospital.
That's terrible. But so they go in and they're with the security, the like guy who's like trying to get everything going with the building. I guess the security guard. I don't know what you would call him. And they see that chair and they're like, he's showing them all the places, and he's also trying to give them like a history lesson, and like they're just kind of like, we just want to get to work. And then at one point Gordon sees the chair for the you see the chair in the beginning of the film, and then you see the chair again, and while he's looking at the chair he starts hearing a voice that's like, hello Gordon. And then he snaps out of it. They go back and then they're doing a run through, and then there's that conversation that happens where he's like, the guard is like, so how long do you think it'll take for you guys to fix all this? And what's his name? Phil is like, oh, about 3 weeks. And Gordon's like, 2. And he's like, is it 3 or 2? And then it's like this intimate eye back and forth between them. And he's like, 2 weeks. And so then you can see Phil's just like, okay.
There's no way we're going to have to push the guys. They're going to have to work overtime.
Yeah, like it's crazy. And I don't even understand why he feels like he has to do that. But he wants to do it in 2 weeks. So
he needed that job because I think there were two, I think if I remember correctly, there were 2 other companies bidding.
Oh, that's right.
And he had to underbid the other company that he was in competition with, where Larry Fessenden is the guy who runs the other company that shows up at the end.
Yeah.
To help out because he calls him.
Oh, my God.
And because Mike calls him and goes, we're going to need your help, basically.
Yeah.
And then he shows up to a fucking bloodbath horror show.
I know. It's so sad. And so then, like, you get the introduction to, well, there is like this, after they do all that, there is like a scene where you see Gordon like fawning over some photos of his family, and then that's this memory where he's like standing outside a house, it's all blue, and he's looking at photos and he's got flowers or whatever, and like then suddenly the scene ends in like hearing these awful sounds, and it's this like replaying, like Derek was saying, that like, oh, you got me flowers, blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, oh no, what's that about? And
baby
then
crying, a pot gets knocked over,
and she's like, the water.
Don't you see a flash real quick of someone in a white hazmat suit covered in blood, and you just hear, do it, Gordon.
Yeah.
And then back to he wakes up in his truck.
Yes. And then we get our little introduction of all the other team members for this mission. We see Hank, Gordon's nephew, which I don't understand how Gordon's nephew had to come to this, but that's so sad. And
Gordon's nephew's I feel so sorry for that kid.
I'm like, why is this freaking kid in here? But it's also, but it's 2001. I'm like, this is child work. What's happening?
Yeah. But they need the extra body.
Yeah.
And they're just, here's the thing. The pressure comes from the fact that they're understaffed. They have a 200,000 square foot condemned building that they have said they'll get all the asbestos tile out of, which is an impossible task with 4 people.
Yeah.
And they only have 2 weeks to do it. And so Gordon brings in his nephew. He's completely inexperienced and has never done this before and is out of his element and has a mullet. And
I heard that he that's a wig or like a hair attachment, and it was so much work getting it on and off that he just left it on throughout the rest of filming. But it looks real.
It looks great.
He looks like everyone, and it's so funny how people are bringing back that mullet now. Yeah, and so it's just like this whole task is like, what the hell? It's also very capitalist to me. Like, here we go, we're gonna try to do something that's like basically impossible, and then we're gonna like really beat ourselves up over it because we couldn't do it. And so as they get into work and everything, okay, wait, I have some notes here. Okay, so we'll run through. I'm trying to think of how to do this in a quick way so that we're not, because JD has to work later. So
Sorry.
No, it's okay. But
They pushed it back till 3, so.
oh, nice. Okay, cool. Perfect. Well, then never mind, guys. I'm going to take a deep breath.
Yeah, take it easy.
All right, we're taking it easy. This would be a good commercial where like I pop open a little drink or something. Take it easy.
Take it easy.
Okay, anyway, so
Sprite.
we learn about Patricia Willard. And they tell about how she was like in treatment for like fake satanic rituals in the 80s that led to a lawsuit. I'm trying to remember what that's like, where that comes in.
They're having lunch talking about the
That's right.
history of the building, that they all
That's what
they
it was.
all sort of know something, but they don't really know shit because it's pre-internet, or just when the internet was starting to take off.
Yeah.
And so one guy hears one story that you may or may not be true, but Mike is telling it. Mike,
That's
who is the
right.
smartest guy in the group, and you're like, how is he even in this group? Like, I think at one point, Phil even says, like, makes allusions to the fact that Mike has a degree and just doesn't want to pursue it. So he's just taking this shit job.
Yes.
And Mike is very smart, and he's like, oh, my I like his father-in-law or somebody or his grandfather worked on the case and knew about some of the people that were involved in it, and it had to do with Mary Hobbs and another patient that was abused, and then she sued the hospital, and it turned out that there was a lot of sexual abuse in the hospital, and that might have shut it down, and then the place was haunted. And I think he's also doing it to get at Gordon's nephew because he wants to scare him.
Yeah, totally. And then Gordon's like, enough. And then they go back to work, and Mike, there's like a power short or outage or something that happens. So Mike goes to check it out, and he finds like this room that's like an old storage library room where there's like all these old tapes and stuff. And then during this time too, Hank gets some like asbestos in his eye, and you're just like, ugh. That's like I feel like that's like, so I don't know why, but those scenes really add to the film. Of it just being like a toxic place.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good way to put it too, because I mean, it's really funny. I didn't even get that metaphor that it already, like, it's already 4 very toxic people in an incredibly toxic environment.
Yeah.
And the only thing that can happen is, I mean, it's already set up for disaster.
Yeah. And then it's just like kind of caving in on all of them in different ways.
Yeah.
And everyone leaves, but Mike stays, and he starts listening to these tapes with Mary Hobbs, who's that girl he was talking about. And so he's listening to her sessions. And I read that this was part of the film to parallel with Mary and Gordon. It's supposed to lean in to be like, okay, yeah, this is what's happening to Gordon. Like, he's disassociating these memories and stuff. And she's got dissociative identity disorder. So she's talking in different voices. This doctor who's like really pushing her. And Mike just keeps listening to the tapes, and Gordon's getting more irritated, and Hank was like on his own little journey and finds a silver dollar from like the wall, and then he finds like this whole little area of like all this like gold, like things that people have been, and then you find out that it's like the backsiding of like the cremation part of the hospital. Isn't that what that is?
Yeah, so he goes into he's in the basement. He's in the lower basement near the boiler room, and he finds a silver coin from the early turn of the century.
Yeah.
And when you meet Hank, he's incredibly combative, doesn't like Phil, isn't really not a very trustworthy guy. And he's looking for a way out. He wants a way out of this fucking life. And
and he's also he's like talking about there's something with like the girl he's hooking up with and Phil. Like
Phil, it's Phil's ex-girlfriend.
He's hooking up and he's like bragging about it to him.
Or it's Phil's ex-wife.
Yeah.
That's right.
He's like, she's sleeping in my bed. And like it's like such a toxic.
It's so toxic. Gross and bro-y.
And it's like in front of this kid again.
Bros wouldn't say that to another bro.
It's terrible.
He finds this coin, and then he sees in a hole in the wall there's this cache of like other coins, and then he starts kicking a hole in the wall, and more shit falls out, and then he realizes like I can't do this now. I'm gonna come back later. Like I know where this is, and then they sort of pull back, and they show that the other side of the wall is a cremation oven. And so all that shit is like gold teeth and coins and personal belongings. And so then that's when I think he decides he's going to come back when it's dark.
Yes.
And that is already a setup for, claustrophobia. And this film explores a lot of different phobias.
Yeah, it really does. And like he goes back, which I would fucking never,
not at night.
Also, the minute I found because he sees a gold tooth, right?
Yeah.
So he knows. Like, I mean, you have to be they don't even mention it. It's just like, this is ash, clearly ash.
Yeah.
And then it zooms out through the holes in the wall, and you see that it's like a cremation part of the building. And so you're just like, you have to know that this is all personal belongings in a creepy ass
never in a million years
hospital.
Yeah. Why would you? I mean, the thing is, take fill a bag in the daytime, hide it somewhere in the hospital.
Pockets now.
Yeah.
Like, why do you have to be greedy? So it shows, and it also shows people like letting their greed and stuff get in the way, or like their pursuits, their selfish pursuits get in the way of like what
doing
they
their
want.
job.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
exactly.
when you realize,
do their job and they'd be fine.
Yeah. I'm like, you only have 4 days. You're stealing people's shit on their cremations, which I'm also like, what a messy cremation.
I mean, you're already like you're haunted artifacts. It's like you're doomed the minute you start collecting that shit.
Yeah, like what are we doing? This isn't the Goonies.
It's horror movie 101, man.
Yeah.
You're putting some gold teeth in your pocket. You're getting you're getting ghosted.
I know. There's even like lobotomy, like pics and stuff in it. It's so bad.
Yeah, so that figures very prominently. He finds a basically like a lobotomy pin. They explain in the movie at one point the old procedure for trepanation, trepany, which is putting a hole in the head, and how that related to the very first lobotomy, and how in early trepanation they would use a tool that you could look like a small awl, and you would insert it into the membrane area in between your eye and your nasal cavity, and you would push it all the way up into the brain cavity, and then with a small hammer pop it to crack that area so that you could get into the front cerebellum and scramble your brains. And that's how they performed early frontal lobotomies.
Yeah.
And so now you already know, like, that this is what's the rule? What's the rule in theater where if you show it, you got to use it?
Oh yeah, this is some foreshadowing
it's
going
foreshadowing,
on.
but there's another term for it, right? Chekhov's gun. Where if you show the gun in the first half, then you have to use the gun at some point. It has to come in. So the minute they talk about that, you're already like, oh, and then you see the tool, and you're like, oh, this is coming into play at some point.
Yeah, you're like, someone's getting lobotomized.
Hank going into that basement at night is absolutely chilling. The whole fucking way that plays out.
I can't even believe he goes back there. Like, I can't. And
then how does it end? Right? You remember he's running. He hears noises. And it's so pivotal because he's trying to get out of there.
Oh, and he goes in listening to music, which I thought was so brave.
What are you doing?
Or ignorant, I guess, right? Like, I was like, what the heck? He's like going in.
Worked in Stranger Things. Listening to music.
Well, no, yes, but this is like.
Have you seen it?
Oh
okay.
yeah. This is but you figure you go into
like
a place
he's going
late
in
at
there
night.
like boopity boop boop boo, And he's like, I'm gonna go find all these, stolen like people's things. They're like, it's like the creepiest hospital you could go in. There's mold, everything, and he's just like going in with the flashlight, listening to some tunes, gonna steal. And I'm like, man,
not
I'd be
aware.
so
Was he
Was
scared.
he dancing
that there
like
would be-
Star-Lord at the beginning of Guardians?
Yeah, it's like it's kind of that vibe. It is kind of that vibe. Like
Yeah.
it's definitely not a
That's
female
exactly it.
vibe. Like I feel like a woman would be like, "There's gonna be bum rapists in here."
Right.
Like,
A woman would have 4 of her friends, all with
Yes.
flashlights. One of them has either a gun or mace or both.
we have gloves on.
We have gloves on.
Yeah, a woman would not pull this shit in this manner.
No one's
it
going
would be it would be like, it would be like Sandra Bullock and all them from oh, what is it?
Speed.
No. What was the
Demolition Man.
Ocean's 12.
Ocean's 12. Yes.
Ocean's
I was like,
12.
which oceans is it? Okay. Yes. I was like, it would be like a whole mission.
They
Isn't that Ocean's
they
8?
really play
Is it
up the
Ocean's
fact
8?
that
I think it's
it's
Ocean's.
Ocean's 8.
Oh, it's Ocean's 8. You guys, there's so many oceans now.
There's really and there's
Why is it
Billy
called
Ocean.
Ocean?
There's the Pacific Ocean. I don't like these movies.
I know. I did like the one with all the women. So I'm just like, hell yeah. Okay, back to this though. So he goes in and he's going in, and then he somehow hears something over his headphones. So he takes his headphones off. When you see the shadow of the person come out from far away,
Come on.
that would make me pass out and shit myself. I'm not even kidding. Like it was so creepy. I couldn't, and I love how it looks like a person, but you're also like, is that a ghost? What is that?
Right. You're really led up a primrose path at this point to believe that this is all supernatural, and so
yeah.
that the place is haunted, and so it could be ghosts, it could be spirits, right? We're already led, I think, gaslit into believing that and I think that's where the tapes come in too, is to sort of further gaslight us into, because really all it is exposition.
You think something's gonna come out, like you think Mary Hobbs is that
Yeah.
person or something.
And then when Hank gives away a little bit of it, his last words at that point, up to that point in the film, are, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah. And so then you're like, what? Who is that? And then it's like blackout. Someone runs towards him.
Yeah.
So then Hank is suddenly missing, and
We got to call Larry Fessenden.
yes, then they call, and then let's see here. Oh yeah, Mike's still listening to the tape. So I kept thinking like Mike was gonna go crazy in some crazy way. Like I kept
Yeah.
thinking like something's gonna happen. And I really did think it was like more supernatural haunting stuff. And Mary's tapes are getting crazier. Not crazier, sorry. She's, they're getting more elaborate.
And intense and very intense.
And yeah, and like you're hearing all of her personalities come out. And then
And the story is starting to unfold, right? Like
yeah,
the story of Christmas night
yes,
is starting to unfold. And because what brought her there was an incident, and we don't know what the incident is yet.
yeah,
And it's something that happened on Christmas, and it wasn't her, it was Simon.
yeah.
Simon was the one personality that hasn't emerged yet.
Yeah, and he keeps being like, "Can I speak to Simon?" And all the other personalities are like, "No,
No, you don't want to talk to Simon.
Yeah, and you like it's so spooky. And whoever this woman is, did a great job with all this voice
Yeah.
acting.
Yeah, it
and
sounds scary.
it is very
I'm
scary.
like, I don't even want to hear it because it sounds like it'd be too haunting.
It's just like empathetic and haunting, like at the same time, because you're like, this poor woman is unable to associate herself with what's happening. And she's definitely disassociative identity disorder. And then Gordon and Phil get to talking, and at one point Gordon's like, "I hit Wendy," and that's like the first we see of like whatever this stress is. So I guess he just hadn't told Phil anything, right? Like,
Yeah, and I think
which why would you tell all your coworkers everything? I mean, it depends on the relationship you have, but
Like,
Well, I
how's your
think they
day,
were-
Bob? I hit my wife.
Yeah. I think they were. I hit my wife. Okay, well, lunch is over.
hey, what was that article you shared for like the 50s where it was like, "Do you hit your wives?"
Oh yeah, I was like, you should.
It's a
Don't be
terrible thing.
afraid to hit your wife. Tell her who's right. You need to
Yeah,
assert
there
yourself.
was like this newspaper clipping that Derek found and shared on Facebook, and it was like a column on an old 1950s paper that was like, do you hit your wives? Like teen bop kind of question or
Oh,
something.
do you spank your
or
wife?
do you spank your wives? And then it's like all these men, and it's like this guy from this city, this guy.
And not for pleasure, for punishment, to teach them a lesson.
Yeah,
you know?
to show them
To
who's
discipline
boss.
them
Like it's just a
and not
column
in a
about all
sexual
these
way.
guys being like, yes, I hit my wife. I spanked my
Oof.
wife.
And the good thing about that particular column that I posted is everyone involved in it is dead.
Yeah.
So, everyone's
He's like, at
dead
least
who
all
had
these guys
anything
are
to do
dead.
with it.
It's wild how much the times have
But I
changed.
think that Phil
that's less
did-
than 100 years ago.
It was. It's 1950 or something like.
I know.
But Phil and Gordon are friends. That's the relationship. I think they were very good friends and attended each other's weddings. They've known each other forever. So Phil definitely feels a trust with Gordon that's why he's so like, this isn't you, man. You know, like this doesn't seem like you. You wouldn't do something so reckless and careless. And that's when, Gordon is like, I hit my wife. He keeps going out for these phone calls to talk to his wife on the phone and leave a message.
He keeps trying to call her
Wendy,
and all this stuff.
I'm so sorry. Call me back. Please call me. He's got his BlackBerry.
And
Wendy, please
BlackBerry.
answer the phone.
you're just like, what's going on? And you have that memory of like him with the screaming. So you're like, what's going on? Like,
So-
is she?
Yeah,
Where
it sounds
is
like the
she-
stress level's so high in this movie.
Yeah.
already. It's
And you
like,
think,
oof,
you really do
anxiety.
think like, okay, so there was an incident, and we know as the viewer that they're probably dead. But the fact that he keeps going out and calling on his lunch break, I have to call Wendy. So you're like,
I
okay,
thought
something's
like maybe
going
he like
on.
assaulted her really bad,
Yeah.
and they were just like
Taking a break.
taking away, like they were moving away. She's, she left in the night, not coming back. I wasn't like fully like, yeah, he killed her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just was in denial at this part because I really still was like, this is haunting stuff. So I really felt like it was ghosts. And I thought we were going to see Mary Hobbs the whole time. Like I truly was like, let me see her. Because she's so interesting. And it's crazy that like she's not even in, like you don't see this character at all. You just hear her tapes the whole film.
It's not exposed until later. He keeps going out to the same spot every day to call her. A secluded spot outside on the grounds to call her away from everybody.
Yeah.
It's not revealed until later that same spot is also the makeshift cemetery out behind the asylum, where he's also right next to the gravestone, the grave marker for the patient that is on the tapes.
Yes, Mary
Oh,
Hobbs. So
okay, yeah,
he's
it's all
like,
coming together.
yeah, but it's still so dreamlike at this point too. It's like a nightmare. And so then he's like driving up one day and he starts seeing like burns on his legs and stuff. And you're like, whoa, how recent was this? Because you in the tape thing or in the sound that keeps replaying, she's like, watch out for the water or whatever. So like you are like, oh my God, it must have been recent, but then you're not. You're like, maybe he's seeing this. And then so this part I like didn't take as many notes because I was like, it speeds up really quickly,
Yeah.
I feel like, and then it also gets really messy. Not messy, but like messy in a good way.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like it truly reminds me of like a real nightmare or a real dream. Like it's all these thoughts like mixed together. And
Things start falling apart really fast.
yes, and Jeff finds Hank, but then leaves to tell them, and Hank is being crazy. He's like standing in a stairwell being like, what are you doing here?
And he's got his sunglasses on.
Yeah, and he's got his sunglasses on. So he's like, what are you doing here? And they're like, Hank, and then he like disappears, which is so sketchy.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for him. And then like, okay, and then do you want to take it away on this part? Because it's very all over the place. And I feel like I didn't take his best notes. So
what happens is Hank shows up. The guys start looking for him. Phil thinks he's being gaslit. And he's like, fucking Hank didn't show up. That dude took off. Whoever
that's
you
right, 'cause
saw. Yeah, it's bullshit. And you're trying
his
to.
ex-wife.
Yeah. And he's like, fuck you. I'm not fucking doing this. There's no way fucking Hank just showed up, and whatever you saw, you didn't see, kid. That's not how this went down. And of course, Gordon's like, now Gordon is very nervous. Why would Hank be here? Well, Hank can't be here. Why would he be here? And we all have to split up and look for him. Then we need to split up.
Yeah.
And Mike is like, oh, this is a great opportunity to go in the basement then and hide out and finish listening to these tapes. And so now he puts on the tape, which is known as, it's labeled as Session 9.
Yeah.
And as this tape begins to unravel the story, we're seeing what's happening as the guys are frantically looking for Hank. And things just fucking fall apart fast. And so as the story progresses, we realize that a very young Mary Hobbs, on Christmas night, she got a ceramic angel as a gift. And her brother, Billy, knocked it off the shelf and broke it. And that's when Simon shows up inside of her. Simon, who is the personality that we haven't seen yet. And Simon starts to talk, and his voice is so fucking haunting. It's just this half-speed, very calculated, and he's haunting. And he just says, basically, Billy awoke something in Mary that I've been waiting for. She was angry, and he had to be punished. Everyone had to be punished. And it's assumed that she picked up a piece of this ceramic angel and cut her brother to pieces with it, stabbed him to death, stabbed her sister, then went after her mom and dad, murdered everybody in the house in a blood rage, and then had no idea that she'd ever done it. She woke up and was completely unaware. And Simon's explaining it from this perspective, like she was inside watching while I ripped and tore and murdered, because I find the broken pieces of people and I hide inside there. And I come out when I want to, when they're no longer able to control me. And I live in the weak and the willing. That's what he says. And this whole time you're just like, oh, fuck. And so now, like, Hank is somewhere in this building. Everybody's frantically trying to find him. Phil he does not even want to partake in this. He knows Gordon's got something's happening, and Gordon's not being honest with him. His nephew has fear of the dark, a horrific paranoia of the phobia of the dark. He cannot be anywhere near it. He has to go downstairs to turn on the fucking generators. And slowly but surely, all the lights start to go off. Now he's covered in drywall dust. He's running for his life, and he sees somebody, and he's like, he's yelling for his Uncle Gordon, and there's just drywall dust coming off this kid's mullet. Yeah. And he's scared shitless. And he's like, and he just sees a sense of relief. And then his eyes widen, and you're like, oh, he just got murdered.
Yeah, totally.
People just get dispatched real quick. I don't remember how Mike gets dispatched.
I know. I don't think they show it.
They don't. They just show his body, right?
Yeah, because then after that, you find Hank on the ground, and you see what is it called? The lobotomy.
Yeah, the hammer, the little
hammer. The hammer thing is in his eye, and he's like, what are you doing here?
It's all the way, like when they pull his glasses off, it's
like sticking.
There. Yeah, it's all the way in his head.
Yeah, and so you're like, okay.
Just been left in there.
You just move it ever so lightly, and he's dead.
Yeah.
And then like all these things start coming down. So it's like tapes playing, and you're seeing like flashbacks, and he's in that room. So there's this room that they look at the beginning where there's all these photos on the wall, and they talk about how it's like a form of art therapy. And then he's looking at these photos, and it's like his photos. And so you're like, did he put this here, or is he hallucinating it? Like, what? And
well, I think too, he had, doesn't it? It's revealed not pretty quickly before all this falls apart that he's been sleeping in his truck on the property.
Yes.
So he's been in the asylum. Like, he's been in that room probably.
Yeah.
Once we see that room, we're like, oh, he's been in here. Like,
yeah. So he's just been like collaging himself. And then it just flashes each time there's all these interactions. You see that. So first we get Hank's dead. Then we see the whole like, do it, Gordon. And then you see that Phil's dead. Then you get just see Mike's body, and then you see you know that Jeff was killed because he's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then it's like we get the full replay again of him coming home with the flowers, right? And
Yeah.
then it all comes full circle, and he's like, no, and he realizes everything he's done. And I heard there was an alternate ending where he dies.
There's a couple of there's an alternate ending where he dies, but it also ties in with the original movie. So the movie that we all saw was it changed halfway through filming. They had the original script was literally about Mary Hobbs living. She was the murderer, and she was still living in the hospital, sort of feral.
Okay.
After it closed down, she was she just felt that's where she lived. That's where Simon lived. But she was a real person. She was feral and homeless and insane
Wow.
and targeting all these guys. So there are scenes of her like in the ducks, listening to them talking and following them, and they don't know that they're being watched. And at the end of the movie, it turns out that she is the killer, and she kills everybody, including
So
Gordon.
they edited it all differently.
And when they were watching dailies, and for some reason Brad Anderson was like, can we just do a cut without her in it? I just want to see what we've assembled without her scenes, because he had this feeling. And they watched it, and he was like, this is a completely different movie. It's way more chilling if we never see her and we don't know who the killer is. And then the dude who plays Mike was like, the other screenwriter was like, well, let's fix this. Like, we can change the whole impetus. That's when they added the recordings and stuff too. Like the whole idea of the tapes over the movie and giving you this idea that there's something else at play. So there's never really a kill. That Gordon's the killer, but it's Simon. The whole movie is about this.
Yeah, like Simon's taking over everyone.
Yeah.
And it ends with that last thing where it's like Simon lives in the weak and the wounded.
Mm-hmm.
That's so crazy. And like that woman, that's so funny because you always hear about people getting edited out. But she's like one of the main roles, and she's just completely edited.
She's totally out of it.
She's totally edited
Yeah,
out.
like, they can't edit me out. I'm the person who's driving
Yeah.
everything.
I know
And
that it's
they still do
not.
And it became a much more haunting film, not because she was not great in it, but because they just saw that without her, they created this sort of other world where it was nebulous, and the fear came from nowhere, and it was so much more effective.
Yeah.
And then of course the end of the movie, Fessenden's truck pulls up, and and he walks through the two showers and gets his hazmat suit. He's getting ready to get suited up in the clean area, and then he stumbles on Phil's corpse, and then he stumbles over Mike's corpse, and he's like, what happened here, Gordon? And that's when Gordon just grabs him from behind in a chokehold, and then slowly pushes that fucking tempranation needle through his eye and twists it. And you're like, oh,
that poor guy.
Everybody's dead. And then a drone shot of the hospital as we listen to Simon sort of talk us out. Well, also, didn't we do see Gordon's broken BlackBerry?
Yeah, and you find out the phone was broken the whole time, and you're like, oh my God.
He's just been living. He's been staying in that room.
The mental illness really hits hard in this film.
It's so fucked.
It is. And yeah, it was like such a unearthly feeling once you realize like everything he did and how much of a mess the whole thing is. And I wrote down some notes from just stuff I was reading, and they said that they wanted Phil and Gordon to be like contrasting personalities of like Phil's this like sympathetic man. He's very like logical, and then like Gordon's actually very menacing, and you kind of do see that throughout the whole thing. Like he's very stern throughout it. Also, what's his name? Who plays Gordon? Peter Milan. Like he's Scottish, right? And so he like had some slurs there where like he's just like, and I remember watching it and I was like, is this guy Scott, like, I was like, is that an accent? And I was like, what the? And it like adds to like the psychological thrill because you're like, what is happening? His voice is coming out. That's just him trying to do an accent. I thought that was really funny. But yeah, it definitely escalates in such a crazy way. You don't expect it to be that. So when when Hank's looking down the hallway, is that supposed to be Mary?
Oh no, we're supposed to think that's what it is.
Yeah,
we're led to believe that it's haunted.
Yeah,
but that's.
Oh,
Gordon.
I just meant like acting, like since they cut her out. Because I remember seeing that body, and I was like, "That's a slender bod." And Gordon's such a like
chunky dude.
He's just like
husky.
He's like I feel like he's like got the dad bod.
He's a big guy.
Like
low center of gravity.
And I was like, that looks like a thin person, and so it looked like extraterrestrial to me too. Like it was, you couldn't see anything. But yeah, that's interesting. Or they just edit it and it's like not her actually, but it still stands in as like ambiguous like that. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I think that's why it definitely wouldn't surprise me if they used her silhouette.
Just that like one silhouette.
Throw it.
Because it was so interesting. And so like I was like, man, that doesn't look like him or anyone that I've seen yet. But it's also the painter in me.
Oh man. The way they do exposition in this movie is really interesting to me too, because it's always outside elements that explain the backstory to you in such a interesting way. Like using Peter Guilfoyle at the beginning to walk us through the hospital, explain how dangerous, and carcinogenic the place is, and the history of like how they mistreated the patients.
Yeah.
And also how giant the building, how they called it the Bat Wing. And because the building shaped like a bat.
Yes. And it's like so roughly based off of real stuff. Like, and I'm sure the conditions of the hospital were horrific. I read that it was overpopulated.
Yeah. So
much so that in the 30s and 40s that patients were actually sleeping in like tunnels of the hospital and stuff.
I can't remember. I went to the town that it's located in. I'm a big fan of the movie.
Yeah. So, where is it located?
What's it called again?
The Danvers State Mental Institution.
The Lunatic Hospital of Danvers State. No, I'm just kidding. That's terrible. And I was also recently, we're talking about like the
Hawthorne, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Dude, Boston is such a Massachusetts, I mean, is such a like spooky place. I haven't been. But there's a lot of tension there that I've read about.
I don't like Boston's I've only been there twice. I won't go back. I just don't like it.
Interesting.
But I did do.
Well, one of the times was to visit this place, right?
Well, we went to. I booked a tour with my buddy Winslow Dumaine. Really funny, very dark, and his art is so good. And
nice.
And we went. He's a big fan of when you go on the road with Winslow. His gig is during the daytime. We're finding every antique mall we can, and we're going to it. He just loves finding artifacts from the places that he goes, and also he's into like Gothic stuff. And we went to this huge antique mall in Massachusetts, and it took all my money I almost bought it. But I had to weigh it because I'm like, do I want this? But it is a giant piece of that building. But when they demolished it, along with a page from the script signed by the director and the writer, and then a lock of human hair they found, and then a picture of the old building where the piece came from.
Wow.
And they had it all
like in a
light
shadow box.
Yeah, shadow box, and it was affordable. But I talked to the guy who had the booth, and I was like, dude, where did you get this? He's like, oh, you know about that movie, right? And he goes, it was shot not far from here at the Danvers State Hospital. And he's like, when they demolished the building, we got to keep a few pieces of it. And I knew the guys that shot the movie. So I had a copy of the shooting script, and I had it signed, and I put the shadow box together. He goes, but it's been here forever, because he goes, I think like 8 people saw that movie. And I'm like, buddy, the people who saw that movie, they didn't stop seeing it. Like, like it's with you forever.
It is with you
in my
forever.
dreams.
That's crazy.
But it's not there anymore. they finally demolished the building and everything, or I think most of it, part of it. But I wanted to go out to the site so bad, but now it's all fenced off and they're doing development. I'm sure they're going to put like massive shops and
they're all going to be so
buildings.
haunted.
Yeah, everything's going to be haunted.
Yeah, so I read like takes on the film and like what people think it was actually about. Someone was saying it's an American tragedy, and I would agree with that because Gordon was based on an actual Boston salesman who returned home and killed his wife after seeing that she burned the ziti that she made. And he then also, after murdering her, cut out her lungs and heart and put them on a stake in the yard, and then just went back to working for a couple days. Isn't that crazy?
Oh my God.
Yes, Katie.
Oh my God.
I know.
Oh, that is so so gruesome.
I can't believe that. And I'm like, okay, he definitely was Italian. No, I'm just kidding.
The ziti. Is there that TikTok
he burned
of
the ziti? I can't believe it.
Hey, did you burn the fucking ziti?
It's
Is that what's happening?
Like some fucking Soprano
Yeah.
shit. Like
Did you burn the fucking ziti? I swear to God, I'll cut your fucking lungs out. I'll put them in the lawn. You do that again.
It is very mob-like, isn't
There's
it?
a lady who does TikToks where she fucks with her Italian husband by like
I love those.
Yeah, well,
mispronouncing,
cut her lungs out
when she breaks the spaghetti to boil it. And he just about collapses in a fit of rage.
Yeah, I
She's
can't
driving
believe
him to this. Actually,
I'm like,
that.
her head's going to be on a pike out front. The cops are going to arrest him. And he's
I
going to
know.
be like,
I was like, can
look
we
at her
look
TikTok.
this
She
guy
was torturing him.
She used canned pomodoro.
This was the last note I was able to take before I had to leave the house, and I was like, I wish I was able to like write more right now. Like I always do this. It's just been such a crazy week, but I was like, that is fucking crazy.
It is an American tragedy in the sense that like also it says a lot about like, I mean, when you brought up capitalism,
yes,
I mean the fact that this is even a job that like people have to bid on, like how do we put people in this position where in order to put food on their table they have to like risk a horrific carcinoma, or 5 cases of carcinoma or their own mental health, like it just, and for a few dollars. And I'm like, that system is so broken, and the fact that these guys had to be in that position is so relatable. It
is such an American tragedy. And like domestic violence in America is insane. It's insane.
And the pressure from that kind of shit is what, that just inhabits those things and
also like
festers.
When you stub a toe, like you want to hit something, so imagine getting a bunch of boiled water all over,
and you're already
I feel like you want to be able to move, but he somehow achieved murder, which is insane.
Well, I think I get from the story too that he didn't want that baby, and so he was already resentful that he had to do this work to fucking. And his wife wanted the baby, and he didn't want it, and he was already mad at her.
Needs of America.
And all it took was one little incident to set him off, and all that resentment just came boiling to the surface. It didn't hurt that Simon was there to help.
Yeah, the Simon idea really fucks with me.
Yeah,
because it's like, it's waiting. It's like a demon or some kind of like,
and the personality trait locked inside of you
feeds on, it feeds on your
devil.
weakness and waits for a moment in order where you don't have any control. There's the thing that scares me the most about that movie, of course, is the complete loss of autonomy and control is something that always scares me, of not having any recollection of my actions, not having any recollection of my conversations or my motivation, and then just waking up one day or coming to and realizing that everything I've done is a disaster, broken. Or
absolutely
worse.
Like you don't realize that maybe you're like in this like Matrix version of the world. Would you say that's like your main fear?
I mean, it is definitely what got me sober.
Totally.
Because that was I started realizing my biggest fear is the thing that I'm doing every day too, like waking up and being like, what did I do? What did I say? Who did I hurt?
The blackouts.
And I started realizing, like, if you're afraid of being possessed, what do you think booze is doing to you, dude?
Dude,
like,
I don't like I stopped like binge drinking, and like I think I would still party at festivals and stuff, lately. Like I quit drinking alcohol in January. Because
wow.
yeah, I
Congrats.
haven't been like public about it really, except on here. Like I talk about it lately, but like, because I just don't want to put pressure on myself. But it was for like a health choice. I have fatty liver disease, and I got it from what I think was Accutane, but my doctors are like, no, it's because you're fat and healthcare shit. So
I read that
like,
your doctor said that, and it made me so fucking mad.
I know, it's fucking crazy. Well, and I quit drinking, and now my liver enzymes are better. So I was like, maybe my body. Well, and I found out my sister did the genetic testing, and she said we have a gene for it. So I was like, oh, probably going on Accutane wasn't great, and socially drinking on it probably wasn't great. And now it's like my liver just can't handle it. So let's quit drinking. But I kept asking them, like, should I quit drinking? And they're like, no, you can drink a little bit. It's just like diet and exercise. And it's like funny to me because I'm like, are they just projecting their own alcoholism on me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I really, like, one of the doctors did say, she was like, I mean, there's been nights where I have really bad diarrhea after drinking a lot of wine. And I'm like, okay, what?
All right.
A weird overshare.
Yeah.
Maybe you should give me a copay.
Projection too. Like I really don't understand. I feel like our healthcare is so sketchy here, and it's so upsetting.
If you're not, by the way, not that I want to cross advertise a podcast on your podcast, but if you haven't listened to Maintenance Phase, I highly
love
recommend
Maintenance
it.
Phase. It's so good.
Winslow turned me onto that on the road, and I'm addicted to it now, and I love those two so much, and
they're so lovely.
It has really helped me with my self-image, with
100%.
my concept of my weight, and like the fact that like I'm okay being fat.
Yeah.
I'm okay saying I'm fat. I'm all right with it.
I know
because
it really helps my confidence and just being like, okay, I identify as a fat person.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been like a person who I've just always been a thicker person. And like every time, like when I lost a shitload of weight, I was at like peak eating disorder years ago. I got an autoimmune disorder from it. And like that was when I really realized like maybe my body just wants to be thicker a little bit. And like I work out, I try to eat as healthy as I can, but like the shame thing is not good for people. It's fucking crazy.
It's so bad. It's so unhealthy. And, when you listening to them talk in such a healthy way about like,
and all the research that they do.
God damn it. And just all the holes they poke and all the bullshit.
I know. There's so much
day.
Bad health advice out there. Like it's really scary how bad our country and how fucked up, like and I've been researching all this stuff for so long because I like used to have such a bad eating disorder. Like my whole thing was like, you're going to be paper thin one day. You're just going to blow away. And, and that was like all my mindset was to be like, I was like, let's get down to 130. And I'm like, can you picture me at 130? I would be like a fucking stick. I'd be like flabs of skin.
I wouldn't recognize me at all.
So it's just like, it's insane. And I've been researching all that stuff, and I've seen so many documentaries about all these different things about how the government's been involved in our food and diet for so long, like the food pyramids. Like when there was all the milk commercials, it's because we had an influx of dairy products. So they were like, we need to move all this dairy. So that's why there's all these fucking milk commercials.
So you mean we have to move all this dairy?
Yes. And same thing with like sugar. We had like a bunch of sugar imported, and they had to like, that's what we had all this fucking like Trick cereal, like all this cereal from the 90s. That was just like straight up
Trick cereal last night.
Dude, but it is a guilty pleasure. But you shouldn't be allowed to have that every once in a while. We shouldn't be like demonizing food.
I'm gonna say that
definitely love that podcast.
Strawberry Frosted Flakes right now.
Whoa.
The new thing.
Oh yeah, I love strawberries and like all things.
Strawberry Frosted
I love
Flakes,
a good granola
and it turns
cereal.
your milk into strawberry milk.
Nice.
And I've said it before recently. I'm a new stoner. I'm very young at this, and I have now fallen in love with things that I previously did not understand.
Yeah,
And
I totally get it because of the
sugar.
health, like the word, like you're like just like I can't have any sugar,
Yeah. But that stuff, I get high and I'm like, I really want a bowl of kids cereal, and I get it now. I could just eat it right out of the box.
Yeah.
Totally. I never appreciated it. I was like, get the healthy cereal.
I know you just like don't even let yourself have a donut. You don't even let yourself have anything like ever because you're just in this diet mindset. Oh wait, what was I gonna say about? Oh yeah, another thing. Do you remember? I was watching like a documentary about all the sugar that's in everything once, and Michelle Obama was trying to incorporate like healthy food into schools, and the government basically silenced her And they were like, no, like we need to sell. We get a lot of our money from all these factories.
Yep.
You need to shut the fuck up. And I think that's fucking crazy. Like,
It's
like-
insane. I mean,
like our government just wants us to die. Like it's truly just so upsetting.
when I was in DECA in high school, which is like basically it's like the business club. And I don't remember exactly what DECA stood for, but it was an acronym for something about, it was marketing and learning how to business training. And so every lunch we had we sold cookies and stuff. Distributive Education Clubs of America.
Yeah.
And thank you. And we used to we sold our own goods. We would brought in Mrs. Fields cookies and we'd bake them. Have them all ready for lunch, and the director was like, "Make sure you let the smell of the cookies get in the hallway and everything." And then one day he was like, "Hey, so we're having the Coca-Cola rep come in because we're thinking we might get a Coke machine in the DECA room, and that would really bring in a lot of revenue for the DECA club, so we'd be able to do more traveling." And all of us were like, "Fuck yeah, we got to get a Coke machine in here, right?"
Yeah.
And then a couple weeks into having this Coke machine, all the kids, kids were fucking sugared out, right? And
I bet.
people were getting
Baking cookies,
they were
Coke.
fighting in front of the soda machine because soda was running out. And one of the kids did one of these fucking the Sally Field jumping on a table and holding up the sign kind of thing. I can't remember what movie that was. Not Silkwood, but she just was this is the worst capitalism. You're being taken advantage of. They're feeding you garbage. They're feeding us sugar and they're profiting off of it. And we have to end this. There's no reason that our public schools should be a place where where they profit off of our diabetes and our
Wow.
And Norma Ray. And thank you.
Yeah.
And she was holding up a sign that just said, I think she said, oh, God
Union?
damn it. No, but Martha Norma Ray did, but I can't remember. Her sign said something like anti-capitalism or anti-Coke. And she just she staged a mock sit-in to get rid of Coke machines. And then she got suspended and then the Coke machine stayed.
She got suspended.
Oh my God, of course. Another woman's
She got
silence.
kicked out.
And then they added 2 more Coke machines.
Oh, damn.
And then that school got its own I think they got a really cool promotional vehicle from Coca-Cola that had
Damn.
chrome pipes on it and a big stereo.
Oh my God. That's
beach
wild.
beach gear.
Oh my God. We're
Every
all
school.
just little worker bees. Okay.
Right?
So I found the burnt ziti murder.
Oh damn.
Okay, so on August 29th, 1995, a 40-year-old upper-class insurance executive argued with his wife over a pan of burnt ziti, which led him to kill her and mutilate her body. Richard Rosenthal strangled his wife to death, carried her out to the backyard in Framingham, and dissected her body. With a rock, he smashed her face beyond recognition and placed her heart and lungs on a stake as a symbolic gesture of a trophy. The burnt ziti murder case is one of the most grotesque crimes in history of the state and brought to the forefront major concerns of violence against women and Commonwealth.
Oof.
He did not even have a criminal record. He was a highly paid executive in a prominent insurance company. And people would say he's not capable of such crimes. But this shocking murder was committed, and it's fucking crazy. Okay, wait. So after Rosenthal mutilated his wife, he partially concealed her body under a pile of mulch.
Damn.
Oh my God. That's the worst thing.
Oh.
Is it because he only half concealed her body? Is that why it's worse?
I just think it's funny that mulch is the
didn't
worst thing you
finish
could
it.
bury someone in.
Yeah.
It's going to blow away.
Yeah.
Took a shower, packed their 4-month-old baby girl up with diapers in
Oh,
a car
God.
seat, and drove off. He later followed a car to a house in Marlborough and made strange comments about gun control. And the residents called the police. When officers confronted him in his car, Rosenthal was quoted as saying, "That is blood. I had an argument. I overcooked the ziti." Oh my God. That's so fucking scary. That is truly an American tragedy.
Over ziti. over ziti.
I mean,
was angel
usually
hair.
when you burn ziti too, like it's only like the sides.
Yeah, it's the crispy
You
stuff.
can
It's
still eat the middle of the ziti.
Not in this house.
I like a little burnt noodle sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, like
and I don't ever in my mind. I've never been so mad that I'm like, and I'm the cook at home. So I mean, if anything goes wrong,
Derek's a very good cook.
but like I would never in my right mind be like, if you over toast my bagel, I'm gonna pull your tongue out of your mouth and staple it to your forehead. Like that means I have other problems happening. Like
it's fucking. You should actually put that in your act. I feel like that'd be a great story.
and then I'm gonna bury you under mulch
crazy.
because I'm not a planner.
I know. I don't know how mulch works.
I'm very impetuous.
Oh my God. And then, you know what's crazy about it is like, I feel like most people should be like the dad in a Christmas Story where they're like, the dogs took it. We're going to go get Peking ducks.
Yeah.
Like, he's a hero.
Yeah. Why would you like
a
it's
different
seedy.
move if he murders his wife at the end of
Yeah, that'd be such a
Christmas
different movie.
Story.
Oh my God. He like slaps her and then the movie ends.
Jesus
Just a slap.
It's Ralphie just accidentally shoots him in the buttocks with a BB, and then the next scene is like he's walking away from the house on fire with a
Just his
sheet
lamp.
that's been wrapped into like a sack like Santa, but it's just leaking blood from underneath as he drags it down a snowy street. They're like A Christmas Story, and then he's eating alone in a Chinese restaurant by himself.
Over the top. This is like a horror story, Christmas story fan fiction. We're just waiting. Totally. So like, yeah, I would agree with the blackouts are very scary. Alcohol is insane. I also just think about driving. Like when I was younger, I definitely drank and drive.
Oh, me too.
And I think about nights that I would wake up and be like, I drove home and I don't remember it. And that would haunt me.
Booze and hash.
When I was like late teens, early 20s. And I mean, in Texas, everyone's drinking and driving. Like it's fucking insane.
I mean, they drive through liquor stores where you can get actual mixed drinks.
Yes, that's where
through the
we'd get
window.
our booze as a teenager. Isn't that crazy? And this guy would bring us out. He wouldn't even card us. He'd just bring us out alcohol, and there would be a little dime bag of cocaine on his chair, just taped right there.
Jesus Christ.
And I remember, like, teenagers, like one of my friends was like, and I was like, don't fucking ask this man for his fucking cocaine. We're 16. What are we doing here? So that's your fear. So psychological thrillers is kind of your wheelhouse for fear.
I like things that are bleak.
Yes.
Like I think bleak is where I tend to land just because when I watch a horror movie, yeah, okay. Sometimes I like to I don't consider like gore to be horror. I consider it its own thing, and it's a completely different thing. It's not horror because it doesn't affect you. Horror is about losing control. That's I mean, being in a situation where you have no control and fear and paranoia. That's what horror is.
That's what really scares me too. But I also like a sci-fi element sometimes to it. Like I've said this many times, but Annihilation and The Thing are two of my favorite sci-fi horror films right now because of that isolation and that paranoia and like trusting people and stuff. Because I'm so gullible, and I always get fucked because I'm so gullible. And
not knowing who to trust.
Yeah.
But those things always seem like, I mean, The Thing instead like is super gory, and I feel like it gets a pass for me because it really is about the fear and the paranoia.
And the special effects are just like a beautiful addition.
It's a chef's kiss to everything else. Like you could watch that movie without it and be like, oh, this movie's all about distrust and paranoia, and I get it, and claustrophobia.
100%. Yeah, and you don't even know who. I love when like something like same thing with Annihilation. I was literally like, it's like a female version. Both these movies prove that you should mix the genders up when you send people out where like one gender is never good. But going back, like I do like think psychological over gore. Like I think gore is fun to watch if you're in the mindset. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Like you should listen to the Hellraiser episode we had with my friend Skylar Kuntz. She's a ER nurse. And so she sees gore all the time. So gore movies, I feel like it's cathartic for her in some weird way.
Oh man.
And it's like, but it is like so ridiculous that you're like, oh yeah, like it's fun in a different way. But I think it can be too much sometimes. And I feel like the way people use the gore sometimes, I'm like, okay, that's enough. Like in Midsummer, spoiler, the hammer scene. I was like, we could have had just two
could
of
have done
those.
without it.
We could have done one hammer, or
Yeah.
they could have even just shown the hammer and cut to something else, and it would have been just as horrific. I just feel like where you use the gore depends on like the voice of the whole film.
Yeah,
Isn't that what you want? You want to see it? Like that's the whole point of watching these
I
movies,
think it's
right?
better said. Okay, so really good book. Mallory's actually reading it right now. Bird
My
Box. Read that book. The movie I know is trash, but the book, same thing like this film. Your imagination just goes crazy because it's like everything they describe it as is something that like you're like no one knows what it looks like, but when you see it, it makes you go crazy. And like everybody's blindfolded, so you're just like hearing you're reading it from the perspective of someone being blindfolded going into something with all these horrific things, and then also people around you are crazy, so you can't trust the people because of this thing happening. It's such an amazing thing, but I think those ambiguous ways of conveying things is what makes it so scary. Like in that Z movie, some of the part
I don't want to talk about it.
Which one's that? Which one's that?
It was like a B movie that another person, Matt Oren, talked about on here. You'll have to watch it, but same thing where it's like Z is like an imaginary friend, and maybe he's more real.
Oh, I think I've seen this.
Yes, the same thing. Like the scariest parts
Yeah.
are when Z's communicating and you can't see him. Once you see him, you're like, what the heck? And I think that really adds to a lot of it. So
there's a movie with Schwarzenegger's son in it that I just watched a couple weeks ago, which I loved, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's on the tip of my tongue, but it is also it's a thriller. It's a horror movie about a guy who has a somnambulist issue where he
I feel like I might have
he
seen
gets
it.
he has an imaginary friend who's not imaginary.
Yeah, so similar.
And he lets him out of his
Patrick
head.
Schwarzenegger.
Patrick Schwarzenegger, yeah.
Daniel isn't real.
It's
Is that it?
yeah, that's
I
it.
haven't
Oh
seen
my
it.
god, it's so good.
I've seen Drop Dead Fred.
It's really good, and it's a horror version of that.
A Drop Dead Fred.
Yeah, it's basically a horror version of that, and oh man, it
Drop
really
Dead Fred is such an interesting movie because
I
there's
love
also
that.
sexual tension in there that you don't understand.
not
and
until you're
like,
older and you
you're
watch
like,
it again.
What? Like, what the heck? Drop
This
Dead
wasn't
Fred.
necessary.
Yeah, totally. There's always so much weird shit from the 90s and 80s like that. Like in Labyrinth too. I'm like, why do I feel a certain way when I see David Bowie?
And well, his pants are way too tight in that movie
and they just
for a
got
reason.
like a dick cup. So do you so some of our other fun questions. Do you and your wife scare each other?
No,
Oh,
she does. She likes gore, but she fucking hates jump scares, home invasion, anything that stuff jumps out of the corner. So I'm sure early in our relationship I might have tried that once, and then I was like, oh, she doesn't like this at all. It fucks her up. I'll never do it again.
Aw.
And so we don't do that at all. Like I just
No, like boo.
nah.
No,
I'm
you
always
never-
I mean, I'll come home and I'll walk by her office and be like, I'm home, and she'll jump 5 feet out of her chair.
This happens so much. It's just so funny how.
And I'm
many-
like, you lived in a fucking household with joy and laughter and a family that stayed together. What are you scared of? Like,
I know.
I was caned when I was 13. I'm the one that should be jumping out of my fucking
Wait,
skin
she's
all
a
the time.
nurse though.
No, she's a marketing director.
Oh,
for
Margaret.
the
Why did I hear
University
nurse?
of
Okay.
Washington.
Oh, nice.
So she doesn't have like any past trauma
Did
that
she
would
listen to
elicit
true
that
crime?
reaction. Yeah, she's just like,
I think every woman should listen to true crime, and
Yeah.
well, I mean every person should, but definitely women, because it's just like preparing you for the worst. It teaches you so much, but like
I always try to be careful with her because I know she's super jumpy and I don't ever want to make her feel like she has to
yeah.
look out around the corners of the house when she
That's
comes
so
home.
funny. The dude's like, it happens.
Because Katie doesn't care about that with her partner at all.
Okay, well, Brad will try to psychologically scare me, and I'll be like, "Boo!" You know. One of the little kids I work with keeps trying to scare me, and I'll be talking to her, and she'll be like, "Boo!" And I'm like, "Okay, that's not the timing," but it cracks me up every time she does it because I like love that she's like, she reminds me of Boo from Monsters Inc. But But yeah, so I'm trying to think of the other questions we have. So you talked about your fears, and
What would you have done if you're in the movie?
I know I thought about that question, and I was like, I mean, how would you know what you're gonna do? You know,
I've thought about this. If I was in that crew of dudes,
okay, yeah,
I honestly would have told Gordon, like, I'm not doing it.
yeah. I feel
would've
like I
told him,
would have like not no showed.
Like at what point? Like first day?
First day, I
I
would have
think-
said
First day.
2 weeks. There's no way we can do it. I'm not going to work under that pressure. It's not for me.
Wow.
Also, if I would have sensed
Good for you.
that that dude was as stressed as he was, and that he picked that, like, we're going to cut it by a week and we're going to work overtime, I would have been like, nope, because I know me.
yeah,
I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I'm already set up for failure.
yeah.
So I wouldn't have even thought of the death stuff. I would have just been like, this is going to be a disaster, and I don't want to be put in that position.
Yeah.
You know,
I
and
think
I
I
don't want
would've
this
quit.
dude mad at me, and I don't want to be fucking. He seems unhinged now and angry, and I don't want to be anywhere in his vicinity.
The minute I got asbestos on me, I'd be like, I'm out.
Yeah, I mean that
Never do
alone.
the job.
I wouldn't be in this job in the first place.
Yeah.
And all those guys, you know,
It's
they
like,
all
how
have
did
this
Jeff
like.
end up there? I still don't understand how his mom was like, yeah, take him. My mom would never, but also my mom would Munchausen by proxy me if she could.
Oh yeah,
But like,
But,
she
like-
would never have let me. She would have been like on the phone. If she had heard any inkling of me going to do a job like that, she would be like, honey, she'd be like sending me articles of what asbestos can do to your body and stuff. It would be bad.
but it's pretty clear that Jeff probably comes from a loose household.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he's already smoking and he's got a mullet and he's not even 19 yet,
Yeah,
or he's
he's
just turned
just
19.
looking for work.
Definitely looking for work. Like, I'm sure his mom is like,
Like,
get out of the house.
yeah, you don't take a job clearing asbestos out because you have a lot of options.
Yeah.
you know?
That's true.
Also, he's not very smart.
I'm like, my mom
So-
would never let me.
All those guys have a sense of fearlessness about the job
know.
in the movie. Like, you know, all of them, Hank,
they're
Mike.
all impulsive.
Yeah,
too.
they're super impulsive. And Jeff just seems like he's not smart. And one of those guys who's like, I don't know, asbestos.
He didn't even know what asbestos was until Hank had to explain,
Explain
it to him.
him.
And then he's like, oh my God, I thought I was afraid of the dark, but now I'm afraid of asbestos.
Yeah. The dark's
Um,
nothing. How about cancer?
Asbestos is such a funny word. Like, asbestos, it sounds like a lady name. Like, it sounds like a name of like an aunt. Asbestos is coming over.
It sounds like a Greek goddess.
Yes.
Asbestos.
Asbestos. I wonder what the name came from. So wait, let's look at the Rotten Tomatoes and we'll get out of here. We always ask people if you believe in aliens or ghosts too, but I can tell you believe in both, right?
A little, yeah.
Oh, man, you don't think you believe in aliens?
I'm still sketch on aliens.
Oh my god.
Because the concept of aliens,
I was
I'm
projecting.
well, here's where I blow everybody's mind. I don't. Alien means not from here, and I tend to think that we're dealing with something interdimensional, which is not
That's what
even.
Our last podcast.
They're not even
said.
traveling. They're from a completely different plane of existence or dimensional existence that has found a way to travel in between the planes of different. And so that's why we don't see them all the time. I have a very hard time with the concept of beings from another planet or a different galaxy visiting all the way out here
We're just
and
all
not
the
letting their
same.
intentions be known and not just coming and visiting. That's such a huge. How many times have you just gotten in the car from here and just driven to Dartmouth just because you want to go see it?
Yeah.
And you cruise around and then drive, 3,000 miles back just because you're like, I just want to visit, you know?
Yeah.
And then the people of Dartmouth are like, once in a great while, a gray hatchback will come through town, with a free Mumia sticker on the back. And no one, and but like,
I
I
live
just-
for that shit.
I think that this is interdimensional stuff that we just don't even know anything about. And I don't think they may not even be beings in the sense that like,
yeah.
it's just something that has managed to cross dimensional
They're
travel.
just
And
plasma.
yeah, it could
I'm
be
just kidding,
anything.
but-
So aliens, no, I'm weird. I'm even weirder. I'm like, oh, aliens. How about, how
They're
about
already
cross-generational
here.
species coming in and, bumping into our plane, our multiverse. And
Really, it's like Doctor Strange.
ghosts, I do believe in, but I I don't believe we're being haunted. I believe that they are literal like approximations of energy that are left
Yeah.
from something, and so they're harmless, but we don't know what they are, so they scare the shit out of us. But it's like a static image that's left again, on a something again dimensional where light and dark just happen. It's like how a photograph is made.
Yeah.
It's a photo negative of whatever that energy was that's there, and
it's crazy.
And then we're like, that wants to kill me, but if it's clear, don't have any fear. That's what I say.
Totally. When they were that makes me think of when they were excavate. I'm a huge ancient Rome, the whole area around the Mediterranean Ocean and everything. Like I love all the history over there. But so I was like so into Pompeii, and when they were excavating it, one of the excavators kept coming across these pots of these pits of like just air in the ground, and he was like, what is this? And it would just cave in. So they decided to pour plaster in it, and when they pulled the plaster out, it was the shapes of people who just incinerated from the pyroclastic flows. And so
fuck
yeah, and I was like, how eerie would that be?
So the pockets of the outline of their being was captured
in the dirt that formed. Yeah.
Fuck.
You can look them up. I went and saw them at the exhibit, and there's a dog, and it made me like so sad.
Oh, I mean,
the people are really sad too.
A chill went up my spine because now like the puffs of air that they were experiencing.
Yeah, those people.
The
last, just like this last little bit of energy that was dispersed into the world.
Oh my God.
It's crazy. Yes. Oh my God. We can look at them right now because JD's got the Google up.
Oh, that is something I've
that
never...
doesn't look like it. Look at
I don't know about Pompeii.
Pompei. Pompeii plaster casts.
That is absolutely
I was like, oh, people try to like recreate it with plaster, but the real ones are pretty chilling.
It's just sculptures of the dick size of all their bands. Oh my God!
Isn't that crazy? If you're at home, look these up. They're bone chilling.
And these were just
They're literally in their last seconds of death, getting like incinerated. There's a dog. It's so sad.
Yeah.
Just the dog looks like it's in so much pain. At least these people are like kind of tense, so that they look like
Oh, the people don't look like they're in pain, Katie.
But they definitely look like they're.
It's like,
but they're like ready for it. I feel like the dog is just so like a nerve, like an exposed nerve or something.
It's like
just exhibiting
capturing
pain so badly.
A three-dimensional negative of something.
Yeah,
that doesn't have any physical form anymore.
Yeah, it's insane.
How fucking weird. What a weird place we live in.
I know, it's so sad. And then in Herculaneum, which was on the other side of the volcano, people just got boiled, and so there's just like skeletons that are like boiled into like stone on the other side.
Oh no,
it's awful.
I don't like that.
And Pompeii's still active, and people live there. Vesuvius, also at the time they thought it was God's. Somewhere. Imagine believing in religion like this. They thought it was Mount Vesuvius was the gods coming down to punish them. That's a horrifying last thought.
Oh,
okay.
No.
So on that note, Session 9 got a 66% on the tomato meter and an audience score of 63%. So very, very close in both. I feel like I didn't even know about this movie. And it's funny that guy was like, there's only like 6 people that saw it. I wonder what came out at the same time as this movie. Or maybe
it's
it was
right
just
before 9/11. I was looking at the date. Yeah. So, I mean,
it was a weird time.
Kind of fucked everything
also,
up.
I think this was like very heavy. And people just didn't take mental health. They still don't take mental health seriously now. But I mean, I think collectively people who are human do know more about mental health now because there's so much drive for us to try to get resources for it. And it's becoming more known. But at the time, I think this stuff would be pretty scary to see. So let's see the splat. A great setting in search of a decent horror film to fill it. Come on. The movie's misplaced psychological emphasis is matched by its stubble scraping visual styles. I feel like these aren't actually splats. They're just like the final illuminations are a poor return on nearly 2 hours of ear buckling, eye stabbing, and incoherence. Okay, so people that need a plot are upset by this movie, or that need like a
they need to be walked through.
They need to be walked through everything.
And this is also a time, I will say, when horror had not returned with a vengeance yet. It had sort of petered out and died. This is right before The Ring was released in the States, which sort of also, these two films are they parallel each other very nicely because they are very dark. They're shot very similarly.
Yes.
Although I think The Ring is beautiful to look at. Gore Verbinski did an amazing job, but they're all about psychological horror. And I don't think we were accustomed to that. And reviewers, I think, were ready for something that was grand guignol
Yeah, they needed to be walked through.
Yeah, psychological horror just hadn't taken off yet.
Collage of memories or something. It also very much, this to me, I'm like, Skinamarink had to have been inspired by this.
Oh yeah.
Because it's the same feel where you're like, and some people, it pisses people off. People don't like when people mix certain type. I mean, I think everything's art, and people get mad when they're like, don't call comedy art, don't call horror art.
It's fucking
and
art.
I'm like, it's fucking art, dude.
You have to create it.
And yeah, and it's like, why not tap into this different way of conveying an art form?
I liked Skinamarink, by the way, and I saw it in a theater with people who didn't
these
last.
Both make me feel the same. I almost fell asleep in both, but I was still very into it. I think that the anxiety inducing makes me pass out sometimes.
There's a comfort in it for me where I'm just like, oh, I'm so comfortable in that territory of just like,
yeah, but same thing happened with me with Uncut Gems. It got so stressful that I passed out at the end.
Oh,
and so I think I just like, I'm like, ugh. And then I come back and I'm like, wait, I gotta finish it.
I love C.H. Newell, and his reviews are always, I still like For Bloody Disgusting and everything else. I think his capsule is really great. That says a lot.
Yeah.
Session 9 evokes an older sense of place while confronting today's struggles to reconcile with the past in the face of modernity via a haunted asylum.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And a brilliant morbid peek in human psychology. Perfect.
Yeah.
And yes, American tragedy. It's like 100% a burnt CD tragedy. Well, it was so fun to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. It's been so long. I hope we had fun.
Oh, it was such a good one. I love when people have so much to say. It makes me so happy.
This is in the wheelhouse for me of films like The Dark and the Wicked, which I also think
that was like our first episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Cody Ulrich picked that one.
I've watched it. I probably watch it once every 2 or 3 months because it still makes me feel unsettled. I like being taken off my game. I also I like horror for, horror. I lived a horror movie, abuse and trauma, being raised in it. Horror for me, real horror was an escape.
I feel that.
I like having control. Horror for me is always about being in an environment that's uncomfortable, but that I also have complete control over. I can get up and leave anytime I want. I also know that it's not real.
And understanding that it's happening.
It helps reconcile trauma for me quite a bit. And the darker and bleaker it is, the healthier I feel at the end.
Yes. It feels like you're processing it.
And it's nice to be scared by something that isn't, real. It's nice to be scared by something that I'm not going to take home later, and it's not going to fuck me up 10 years down the road, and I'm not going to have to seek therapy for.
Absolutely. I also feel like when it's one where someone does make it out, which this one they didn't, it helps you understand how you can overcome traumas in different ways, which is interesting. So what can we plug for you? Many albums.
Let's see. Go to Derek Sheen Rules with a C.com, and I'm going to be on the road pretty much until the end of the year. Until I fucking nail down this hour that I feel like is going to do something, hopefully. Nice. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. And then I've got, let's see, what have I got coming up? Just go there. I guess just go to DerekSheenRules.com because I'm going to be all over the place.
Yeah. And look them up on TikTok, Instagram.
I don't have a special coming out. I'm not doing albums anymore. So
yeah, I'm doing my first album and special, but I was like, I don't know if albums are going to be a thing anymore.
I think everybody has to try it, but I feel like I'm like, I've done 4 of them, and nobody asked for 4. Nobody wanted 4 of those. Nobody wanted 4 of those.
I feel like they're little time capsules of like your joke. It's just nice, and it's a push to move forward to write new material.
It really does. It really does promote writing a lot more and dumping your old stuff. And
yes.
that's what's been
And
hard about this hour is I've been carrying it since the pandemic and working on it.
it's like
and-
hard to, you're like letting go of the pandemic
Yeah.
while also, yeah, it's tough. No, I'm also recording an album special. It'll be on YouTube too. December 2nd at the Bug Theater at 7 p.m.
That's the way to do it.
So mark your calendars, guys. And also check out Sheen's schedule. JD also has lots of other podcasts under Left Hand Right Brain Productions, but he also has Left Hand Right Brain Production or Left Hand Right Brain Podcast, which is super fun podcast to check out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, by the way.
Oh yeah, thanks for coming.
Heck yeah. And please like, share, and review. Stay spooky.
Stay
Bye-bye.
spooky. Thanks for having me.
Woo! That was my spooky sound.
I live with Katie Bowman.
Help Me I'm Scared is a Left Hand, Right Brain production, produced by JD Lopez, with music by Ben Kronberg.